Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to Be in the Room, episode 16 out of 20 of this expert series, a live series that is brought to you to help you to stop shrinking and to start leading with purpose in any room that you are in, or getting you into the rooms that you are determined to be in, that you are not yet currently in. I'm your host, Lauren Morrison. I am an expert. I am a leadership and I can't even talk this morning. My gosh. Good morning. I'm Lauren Morrison, and I am a certified professional business and executive coach, bringing you the tools to help you to manage every aspect of your leadership. All of these tools are tools that you can not only take from a leadership perspective, they are tools that are going to help you become better parents, become better partners, become better friends, become better employees, become better leaders, become better humans altogether. It's all about intentional and strategic communication, understanding how your brain works and the neuroscience of all of it, and giving you tools, models, and frameworks to help you break it all down. All right, let's say good morning to some people. Hey, Mandy. Hello. Hey, Sean. Oh, thank you so much for reading the book. Trishan is here first. Nice to see you. Okay, and yes, of course, anyone who is looking for a deep dive into the things that we talk about, my book is now currently available on Amazon. Be in the Room, How to Stop Shrinking and How to Start Leading with Purpose. Today's live, we are going to be diving into the power of the pause. Now, we have been, hey, from Fairfax, hey, Jess. So just to do a recap, for those of you who are just entering into week 4 of this 4-week series, in week 1, we talked all about emotional mastery, and emotional mastery being better understanding how our emotions play into our decision making, how they play into how we navigate difficult conversations, and really how emotional mastery and emotional control is just, how can I put it? Like, it is a difference maker. Let me say, emotional regulation, your ability to respond versus react, can be the difference between who's in the room and who is not in the room, or who's in the room and who gets to stay in the room. Netflix series. Week 2, we went into more about strategic decision making. So we talked about things like we talked about how to develop map plans, how to better understand what your values are, how to use those values to inform and build a plan that creates success on your terms. And then we also talked about time management, and we talked about communications as well. And then last week, we talked all about personal power. So in personal power, we revisited navigating difficult conversations. We talked about setting boundaries. We talked about the highs and lows of chasing success and how to better understand what comes at various phases of success, so that you know what tools you need to take with you in order to manage it. Because again, we talked about how we tend to achieve milestones, move the goalpost on ourselves. So as you can see, when it comes to business, when it comes to leadership, when it comes to anything in our lives, we are attacking this from an emotional center of ourselves. And if we decide, if we want to pretend like emotions don't matter in business, if we want to pretend that feelings don't matter in business, we're missing a key part of the discussion that has the ability to take your strategic leadership from here to here, right? So we've talked all about that. We also talked about the leadership pipeline. My God, we've talked about so much. Now, for those of you who are staying into the live, one of the things that I want to offer you at the end is I'm going to give you a preview to something that I am launching in February. That this will be, you'll get the pregame on what I'm launching in February. So today is all about the power of the pause. Now, the pause is probably one of the most difficult leadership tools to access, and also one of the most powerful leadership tools to access. And I'll tell you why it is difficult. It's difficult because our brains, again, are running 1,000,000 miles a second. So we are trained to fill in silence. We view silence as something that feels uncomfortable. And when there is silence, our brain works very quickly to want to fill in the gap of that silence. And oftentimes we're filling in the gap with more information than is required. We're filling in the gap with insecurities. We're filling in the gap with data that doesn't even really move the needle. And how often are we doing this when it comes to presentations, when it comes to speaking, when it comes to selling, when it comes to selling people or pitching yourself? One of the things that we tend to do is we tend to over talk and we don't leave the space for the silence. One of the most powerful pieces of advice I ever got from someone was I actually hired a sales coach to help me when I was moving to higher ticket coaching. And this sales coach took one listen to my pitch and he said, "Can I give you some feedback?" I said, "Sure." He's like, "You need to shut up more." And I was like, wow. Because we tend to think that we need to talk more in order to sell someone on an idea. Whether it's a service or an idea, we think we need to talk more. But really, the power and the strategy comes in dropping something, letting it land, and get out of the way. And I see my clients do this all the time, whereby they will drop something, get so uncomfortable, so they'll fill in the silence. Meanwhile, the person on the receiving end hasn't had the space to move from trigger to response. They haven't had the space to process. Imagine someone sends you an email and it's just all text, no paragraphs, no breaks. That's what oftentimes our speech comes out like. Just one straight block of paragraph without any break, without any emphasis on what points need to land and on what points we need to are just complete noise. So I want to bring this up, and it's not just the pause in our speech, it's the pause in our email communications, right? Leaving those breaks, leaving those one-liners, giving people more space to process your message, giving people more space to let your message land, and showing people that you are not coming at your message from a place of nervousness, from a place of insecurity, but you're coming at your message from a place of power, and you're coming from your message from a place of thoughtfulness. Because those people who have power, who have strategy, who have thoughtfulness, they're not trying to run through all the data and all the information. They've made it very clear what points matter, and they lead with those points, right? So encouraging you to think about shutting up more. And when I talk about shutting up more in the pause, it's not just necessarily about how we speak, but even sometimes the time we take for ourselves, right? So the time we take for ourselves, when someone says something to us, giving ourselves a moment to just pause and gather our thoughts, to move from trigger to response, right? Giving ourselves some of that space and that pause could be 5 minutes, that pause could be 3 breaths. That pause could just be like, let me just go take a walk around the block and let me come back to you. Because if you remember, when we talked about episode in emotional mastery, we talked about that thing called the amygdala hijack. So when someone says something to you that triggers you, now it doesn't necessarily need to be a bad thing. It doesn't need to be an insult. Maybe it's a number. Maybe it's a concept. Maybe it's an idea. Anything that anyone suggests that might disrupt your version of what the future could look like, that might cause you to question your level of certainty, that can create a trigger, right? So using that moment when the amygdala hijack is happening, that means that we are more likely to respond with emotion versus with rational thinking. So we need to take that break we need to take that pause in order to allow the amygdala to decrease itself so that we can access our rational thinking better, right? So again, that pause could send sometimes, have you ever wrote an email to someone but didn't put their name in the send because you're like, let me just write all my thoughts and then I'll come back to this and then I'll change the way that I'll maybe change the wording of this. That's exactly what the pause does. And pause when it also comes to your own leadership of self. Taking those pauses, whether that is on the space where you don't seem to be productive per se. Taking the pauses, whether it's on a weekend, whether it is a vacation, We all require that pause, that space to be able to recalibrate the direction that our decisions are being made. Because the less room we leave for pause, whether that is in our speech, whether that is in our time management, the less room we make for it, the more likely we are to be making decisions from a place that is not in alignment with your values. Making decisions from a place where we are like fear, scarcity, bunch of others, but making decisions from a place where essentially your amygdala, your emotions, your self-preservation is running the show on your behalf. And that powerful 5 seconds that you take could be the thing that makes could be the thing that is the difference between this decision and a much better decision. Same thing when we're talking to people. And I want to encourage you, even when you go and have conversations today, when someone finishes speaking, before jumping right in there, give them the pause. Count to 3. Counting to 3 or even 5, even better, lets the other person know that you've listened, that you're hearing them, that you're processing, that whatever they're saying is important to you such that you're willing to give it the space to process before you respond, and shows that you are wanting to respond thoughtfully. It might feel awkward in the moment, and yeah, they might get a little bit afraid in the moment, like, why are they taking so long to speak? Because again, silence is nerve-wracking for us. But even if you just let it land there for a few seconds, they're going to get relief soon. They're going to get relief soon, and they're going to feel better knowing that you've heard them. And that is a powerful leadership tool in and of itself. So again, talked about the pause and how we are wired to fill in the blanks, but filling in the blanks on autopilot can often talk ourselves out of the thing that we're pitching, show that we are nervous. It can show that we are not confident in what it is that we're saying, versus someone who is slower, steadier, takes intentional pauses, whether it's in their written or verbal communication, in and of itself speaks power into your presence, right? Taking pauses when it comes to speaking to other people, letting their point land with you first before you respond, because the other side of it is that people interrupt people all the time. No one likes that. So giving the other person that 3 to 5 second space to let them know that their message has landed could make all the difference in terms of how they feel about you and how they feel about your leadership. And then the third thing, of course, is taking the pauses for yourself. Pauses can often feel like weakness to high achiever. Stopping can feel like weakness to high achiever. It feels like we're not doing anything. I haven't earned the pause. I haven't earned my break yet. And this place is something that we need to understand is, yes, oftentimes a thing that helps drive us, especially in hustle culture where they talk about we don't sleep is for the weak, blah, 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 blah. But the truth of the matter is that those pauses are creating the space for you to get intentional about your values, intentional about your decisions, and become more strategic in how you approach the work that you do going next. Some of you recall when at the beginning of week 2, when we talked about the pyramid of our results. So at the top of the pyramid is the results. Underneath our results is being fed by our actions and our inactions. Those actions or inactions are being fed by our mindset. That mindset is being fed by our belief about ourselves, about others, and about our business. Those beliefs are being fed by our values, and underneath all that at the very bottom of the pyramid is space. And the thing is that when we neglect that space, we're not in control of our results. When we neglect that space, we are not in control of our results. We're not in control of our desired results. So I want to encourage all of you today, think about an area where you could be implementing more pause, whether that is in a presentation that you want to deliver, whether that is in an email that you want to write, whether that is in a conversation that you want to have, the next conversation that you have, or whether that is just intentionally taking space for you. What could your version of pause look like today? And what is the power that could be on the other side of it? Okay? If you have any ideas, I would love to see it in the chat. I will just be very honest and say that pauses, hey, author Lamont Wheeler, nice to see you. Pauses on lives are something that I find difficult to do. I'll be honest, lives make me a bit nervous because there's no real audience interaction that's happening all the time. I'm trying to be mindful of time and space. I don't have slides. I don't always have notes or a teleprompter. And so I can even, in my head, you can tell even when I'm doing a live when I'm not really sure of myself or when I'm getting nervous. And you'll notice it because I start to speak really fast. And I noticed that especially when I did my first week of lives. The first week of lives, I was like, just saying all the things because my brain starts to go to, oh, well, I need to make sure that the however many people who are here, that they don't drop off. And so I got to make sure I say something really valuable so that they don't leave and da-da-da-da-da. So you can already see that fear is starting to dictate my own speech pattern, right? And then eventually, as I became more comfortable and as I became more intentional about these lives and the pause and bringing that more in-person presence that I do have to this platform, it started to get a little bit slower. It started to get a little bit more controlled. So again, not something that I'm perfect at, but something that I'm continuously practicing on this specific platform, which is a very different platform than what I'm used to when it comes to facilitating to large rooms of leaders, when it comes to doing public speaking, when it comes to even leading a coaching session. Leading a coaching session is where the pause does all the work. I'll tell you that much. The pause in a coaching session is where all the work happens. If I'm able to ask someone a question and they have to pause for a while without interruption from me, yes, I'm spinning in that moment. Yes, I'm afraid I asked them the wrong question. Yes, I want to save them. But in those moments where I'm not speaking, they are connecting so many powerful dots that they've not had the space to connect with before. And that is why coaching is such a powerful leadership tool, is because it offers something that is not part of our daily lives, and that is space. That is space. That is pause. That is the opportunity to shield the noise from what everyone else thinks and what everyone else wants and performing for everybody else, to just give yourself the space to be like, what does this mean for me? How can I connect the dots? What is it that I'm not seeing? What am I not paying attention to? What have I started to overlook? What do I want to go back to? As a coach, I am trained deeply in the pause in that format for that very specific reason, because it offers so much power. Awesome. So we're got some people who've got some public speaking, pausing and practice. Awesome. Virtual training session with clients. That'd be great. The lessons are unrehearsed, straight from the brain too. Yeah, they are. 20 topics is a lot. Okay, so that being said, at the top of this live, I talked about a special offer that I'm offering to folks in February. Now, this is something that I have been extending, especially during Black History Month, because I recognize that oftentimes lives like these, tools like these, books like what I have, they're really powerful. But oftentimes, without that guided space to really reflect, respond, to dig deeper, they can sometimes only change things on a surface level. So if there are people who are looking to go deeper and they want to go deeper with me, but they have been afraid that it's going to cost too much, that they need to get to their next level of leadership before they can bring me on, that essentially it's just not accessible for them yet. This is an opportunity where I'm essentially widening the gate for the month of February, because I think it is so important for people to have the opportunity to see what the power of coaching can have on their lives, can see what the power of how transformative this can be. It is something that has transformed my life and has brought me here to this screen, to you all today. And it is something that I want to give back to people in my community. So if having business coaching or leadership executive coaching has been on your vision board for 2026 and you put it off as maybe I'll get there, maybe I won't, I want to encourage you to send me a DM and I will give you the details on how you can take advantage of this opportunity. I'm offering 6-week intensives for people who are ready to be on this journey. It is consistent, it is deep, but it is absolutely life-changing. All right? Okay, so send me a DM if that is what you're into. Otherwise, I will see you all tomorrow. Here, it's Arshelle. Hey, Wayne. I will see you all tomorrow. We are going to be talking... Oh, let me get my notes. Forgot what we were talking about. All right. Tomorrow, we're talking all about decision fatigue and simplifying priorities, how high achievers can eliminate the noise and increase their focus. So building on some of the tools that we have from last year, integrating the pause, and again, some powerful questions that you could start asking yourself in order to really get clear on how to reduce the noise around you. I'm your host, Lauren Morrison, certified executive and business coach, and it has been such a pleasure to hang out with you for the last 3 weeks. This is the final week of the lives, and I just genuinely hope that these sessions have been truly valuable to you, and that you're not going to take away everything, but from every session, maybe you take away one small thing that resonates, that you can start implementing tomorrow, that can help make all the difference in the way that you lead. One micro shift at a time. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Bye.